Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible and all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young and I'm one of your sociable, convivial hosts. Joining me as always is our other sociable and convivial host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always. What's the crack?
I like being, I don't know if I'm sociable.
No, I'm certainly not. I'm begrudgingly sociable. Everybody thinks I'm sociable, right? But I'm like, fuck off.
I sent you a photo of this yesterday, but I flew a plane for 5 minutes.
Yeah, super cool.
It was pretty. So we have friends that, well, he's a pilot. He was an Apache pilot.
Ooh, cool.
I know, right? So I was like, okay, yeah, I trust you to fly me in a Cessna. So we flew to the 2 towns over and had lunch at this airport restaurant that was so cheap. I was like, why is it so cheap? I'm at an airport, right?
Yeah.
I'm not spending $30 on a sandwich. I don't understand.
But it was like a private sort of airport-y affair?
Well, no, I mean, I don't think there are many private airports.
Okay.
What you realize when you're kind of low enough, because I think we only went to 5,000 feet, is that there are tiny airports everywhere.
Yeah.
Basically every town has a little landing strip.
Yeah.
And the airport we have here, it was so cool. It's I've been to the outside of the fence. It's by the weed store. It's by the weed store. So it's fun to go out there and watch the planes, take off and land. That's also where Cal Fire has their airplanes for refueling.
Okay.
And getting the dust, the red dust powder that they put on. We don't have forests here, but land fires.
Oh yeah.
But it was so cool to go on the other side of the fence, and it's this whole culture of people that fly tiny planes for funsies,
nice.
Right? So we went to the hangar, and our friend rents a plane, and they pay for gas basically, and maybe for the couple hours that they use the plane, and then but I was watching him doing his flight checks. And making sure the plane was ready to go. That took 20 minutes, and then plotting where we were going, and then talking to the tower and Alpha Niner, I don't know what I'm. Roger, copy your copy. Leslie Nielsen airplane, but and don't call me Shirley.
Don't call me Shirley.
But it was just so interesting. It was so interesting.
Yeah.
It's this whole, when you look behind the curtain of a certain counterculture or hobby that people have, that's what I got to do, and it's one of my favorite things ever.
Yeah. And
then he was we were flying back, and he's Mike flew in the front on the way there, and then I flew in the front on the way back because Mike is terrified of heights.
Oh, okay.
He was a mess.
That's why he likes. That's why he likes being underwater. Okay, it all adds up.
Yeah, not above, yeah. Too far up. But he was do you want to fly? And I was okay. And he's because small planes usually have 2 sets of I don't know what they're called, handles.
Yeah.
So I got to right. Andy knows all the airplane.
Yeah, that's all the air terms. Yeah.
So I got to fly it and bank it and how to position and find a point and fly towards it. And,
that's cool.
It was cool. Yeah.
So I did for my 40th birthday, I believe it was. I got a helicopter lesson. I don't know if I told you about this.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
Yeah. And
you don't want to make a wrong move there.
Sure don't. And we were up in that for an hour, and I actually got to fly it for a little bit, and it was very scary, and but I was really cool, and it really was quite satisfying whenever you I think it's similar things to what you were talking about, whereas find the point, bringing the nose down a little bit, so you're kind of but it was very cool.
Trimming.
Yeah.
Trimming.
And
so
this was at a time when I was making lots of money and was miserable, and I was am I gonna do I want to learn how to be a helicopter pilot? But I abandoned the idea swiftly because one of my many sort of hobbies that I had thought about, but it would cost me thousands and thousands to get and then when would I use it?
That's a good topic for an episode, is hobbies we gave up on.
Yeah. Oh, here, that'll be the 3
the time I was I'm gonna get my PhD, and then it turned out it was a cult.
Yeah. Or like the time I tried to take up jiu-jitsu and then they set up a cash order from my account for like 1.5 years afterwards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like the time I was like, I'm gonna foster parrots, but also pay $5,000 to do it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right, right. Save it. Let's save it all.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay.
Okay, we've got many episodes worth, I would say, of stories for this. Um, so, the crack with me this week is I've been dog sitting. I mean, that's it. I'm strong out, man.
Okay.
I don't sleep well at the best of times. I was telling Beth before we started recording, like,
We're both like, we're tired.
Yeah, and it's both dog related as well. Friggin' dogs.
Dogs.
I love them, but also just
You're like, is Star okay? I'm just like, I'm angry with her.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to talk about her right now. It's like dogs, you're cool and everything, but quit being so extra. It's just like take it down a notch. And it's been nice, but there was a bit of crossover. So I've had two dogs, and they are good. I mean, but they both are quite playful and quite young, and they really kind of play quite hard, like quite a bit of roughhousing. So I'm having to like break them up, put them in separate rooms. Sleeping situation's bad. One of them, if there is something at her height that she can fit in her mouth, it will go in her mouth in seconds. And so like everything, so like video game controllers, remote controls for the TV, socks, shoes, like truly everything, coasters, anything that is her height. So now that everything in my house is either in a room that is the door is like locked for while she's going to be here, or is like at my sort of height. And it's tricky because like you're just sometimes come in at night and you're like, oh, I'm exhausted.
Keys down.
Kick my shoes off, and then immediately she comes over, grabs your shoe, and she runs away thinking it's a game, and you're like, God damn it, she's gonna chew that up. I like that shoe. So yeah.
Did they tell you that was a thing?
She did, in fairness. I
Okay,
did,
good.
and I have been pretty good about it. I just didn't realize quite how extreme it was going to be with her.
Right.
So it has been interesting. But the other one, a cockapoo, he was like super nervous at first, and now he's like very affectionate, which is awesome. So yeah, so
they balance each other out.
Yeah, dog sitting. They're both good dogs, I must say, for the most part. But like, it's one of these things, and you think dog sitting, that'll be easy. It's not really. It has its ups, it has its downs.
It's like having children.
Yeah.
You just don't get paid as much.
No, you really don't.
Yeah.
But as I say, it is nice to have them, and yeah. I don't. I was. I was going to then say something negative, but I decided against it there. But yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, it's fine. They're fine. Dogs are grand, I suppose. I don't mean it. I love them really.
Is Sasha handling it okay?
No. I mean, like she's fine with it, but she's very angry with me.
She's like, this is how it's going to be forever.
Yeah.
What have you done to our utopia?
Why have you replaced me? Do you hate me? I was like, no, I don't, darling. Like, basically, this desk that I'm sitting at now, if I am here working, she's underneath this desk, so I'll protect her from the evil doggos, Poor Sasha. Her life's very hard.
I know.
So hard.
I know.
But yeah, and it's because that has kept me in the house. Oh no, actually there's some I went to something else at the weekend which I should talk about because it's kind of, well, I'll get into it a bit now, but it leads me to one of the things we're going to talk about today. So I went to a friend's wedding, the evening part of his wedding, and
okay.
This is somebody.
So in your culture, right? A lot of times there's a church wedding and then there's like the reception somewhere else.
Exactly.
So it's not uncommon to only be invited to the reception.
Yes.
Because the church is small.
Yes, and like also because like if you're just going to the night section, you won't get fed. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Yeah. So it's not as much of an outlay. So it tends to be closer family and friends get invited to the full day thing, and people that you kind of know a little bit but you want to invite along get invited to the evening event.
Gotcha.
But like it was an interesting one because he is a person who, whenever he has got into relationships, he just kind of like disappears. And we realized only a handful of us went who I kind of knew, and we didn't really know anybody else. We thought we'd know somebody, but we didn't know a single other person. And I realised I was the one who'd seen him most recently out of all of us, and I saw him before his daughter was born, and that was 2.5 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yes. So yeah. So
It's good to catch up.
It was. It was good. It was good to see them nonetheless. But I think it was an interesting sort of connection to our topic for today.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, which shall we get into?
I don't have any. Yeah, I don't have anything occurring. So let's dive in. This is an interesting topic.
It is. So
I like Googled it and I found. So we're talking about adult friendships, obviously, because you can see the title. But I was like, oh, sometimes I'm just like questions about blank, whatever the topic is. I'm giving you all my secrets.
Yeah, and I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing this?
So, but it was all like adult friendships are hard and like why is it so hard to like make friends as an adult? And so like this is a thing.
Yeah, it is.
That people profit off of and like have classes about and write books about.
And like there's almost like limits people set, like post 30 it's hard, like post 40 it's even harder, and so on and so forth, which just this sort of idea that it's very difficult to make friendships. But I think that's more speaks to how people's lives tend to change. We'll get into it. But whereas like,
do you ever wish you still lived in a college dorm?
No. Probably not. Like, I like aspects of that, but not really. Like, I mean, I also remember the chaos. I also remember, like, my bathroom privacy not being respected.
Right.
And my room privacy not being respected, like so on and so forth. And it was just like, there was upsides to it, but I do remember the chaos of it as well.
I had a good experience, and I have thought often, like, if all my friends just lived in a hallway, like how rad that would be.
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty excited to like eventually end up in an old folks home, because I'm like gonna harken back to my like college days, I think, and be like, oh hell yeah, it's time for bingo.
Yeah. I've had more than one friend talk about like retiring to like, the Caribbean or something like that and buying a house, and it's like, yeah, sure, that'll happen. I mean, like, I like it in theory, but we'll see. Yeah.
Okay. So where do you want to start?
So the first thing that I thought about whenever I was looking at this subject was that I think the hardest thing with adult friendships is maintaining them. So my question was like, how do you maintain friendships? Just to kind of set the tone for this in terms of, before we even get into that, I wanted to just talk about how we feel our relationship with adult friendships is. Like, I have lots of friends. I've talked about this before. There's no accounting for taste. I don't know what they see in me, but I have made lots of friends. I do make an effort with them, and it really takes up a lot of my time, and I don't regret that, but it is it's something you need to consciously work at, I think. And I have tended to like pick up friends as I've moved through life in different sort of phases, in different sort of areas, and which is really great. And I do think I'm lucky in that regard, but I also think that I make an effort. If I come across somebody who I'm like, this is a cool person, I like this person in my life, I make the effort with them, so that's kind of where I'm at with friends as an adult. What about you?
I think, I mean, I could take this in many directions. I think, I'm lucky. I think we're both lucky in that we have friends that we've had for like decades. Yeah. And so I love the longevity of some of my friendships. Yeah. And then I have more intense friendships where, we communicate more often. Yeah. But I don't think one is any more like amazing or deep or anything,
Agreed.
because, longevity is amazing and deepness is amazing. Um, but I have, it's horrible to say, but like, I'm not the best at keeping up
Yep.
with people. Like, I remember birthdays, except for Andy's.
Mm-hmm. I
I
felt that one feels
remember,
pointed.
yeah, right. I totally forgot your birthday. I feel
Yeah,
so bad.
I don't care.
Um, but like, I, I'm trying to work harder on being a better friend
Yeah.
and reaching out more. I'm really good in crisis.
Yes, I
So
believe
like
it.
if someone's going through something, like I'm there, I'm texting, like I'm making sure someone's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Um and I think I'm pretty good at like providing adventure
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
laughter, and I
Mm-hmm.
think those are, good and big things. But I've actually like I think just like life has happened over the last 5 years, and so that's caused some of my friendships to fall away.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them that was okay with me.
I hear
And
you.
other ones I'm like, I can probably pick that back up if I want to. I
Yeah.
just need to like clear the time, and like having children makes it harder to make space for friendship.
That
So,
was the big thing I was going to say. Do you know? Because like it is something obviously I don't have to factor in that.
mhm.
It is just me really. So that's it's easier to make those kind of leaps. Whereas like having a relationship, having kids is an incredible time sink. So it is
Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah.
Look, like I think that I have friends who and I think then it's about having good friends, and I've had friends who have went through that, have families and stuff like that, who have still, but I just understand that there's going to be a period of their life where I'm not going to hear from them too often, but we
Hmm.
still make an effort to check in, every now and again. If we
Yeah.
see each other once a year, then that's great. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
love those friendships in a lot of ways, because they feel
Yes.
important, and they're not going to
Yes.
go away, you know.
Yeah. And I wish I had more time, to travel to see friends. I
Yeah.
wish I had more time to like Marco Polo with friends. I hate talking on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
so I wish I had more time to text friends. It's just like I'm also in like a super unproductive lull right now where I just cannot get anything done.
I hear you.
Like life chores, I'm just like, eh. So I'm kind of like a little, insular right
Yeah.
now too. So I think that also plays into friendships where like sometimes you're insular and sometimes your friend is insular,
Mm-hmm.
and needs a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of like alone time, and that plays a factor into things too. But yeah.
Yeah. It's.
So how can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
How do your adult friendships differ from the friendships you had as a kid?
Um. I would say, well, okay. I mean, I suppose it depends what type of, what age of kid I would be.
Hmm.
Like, I think that once I started getting older, in my later teenage years, because honestly, you can probably start drinking in this country pretty easily from about 16. It's 18's the age limit, but you can get into bars. Some
So
bars,
crazy.
it's nuts. I
It's
know.
21 here.
All right, and a hard line 21, I know I've seen it. Like,
Yeah.
I've been carded in my, like,
Yeah.
late 30s. I'm like, okay. So it's nuts over here in that regard. It's just, I mean, there's a discussion to be had as to whether that's good or
Yeah.
bad, but
Yeah.
it certainly for this country, it's such a kind of key component of those friendships for a lot of people, and certainly in my
Hmm.
life it was. So I think as I've gotten older, the nature of those relationships changing to not needing to have drink in them has been really huge. But I do kind of like to have activities built in. I think that's more speaks to like me. So it's like whether that's board games or going. I went sea swimming with some friends recently. Things like that. Um, so like I think that's the change. But like when I was younger, I quite liked to have activities as well. So I think there is. I think the adult friendships I have are kinder and more thoughtful, largely. Like, kids' relationships are great, but they're so kind of raw and can be rough at times. I suppose you're discovering yourself, so it's an interesting time for those sorts of things. So I think that's the major difference for me.
Yeah, I would agree. Like my friendships are more, I would say, like substantial,
Yes.
like less competitive. I'm not competitive at all, really, except for I think with you.
And
which
me?
which is like I know, right? Which is like 1%,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like tongue in cheek
It's just because I'm a
competitiveness.
I'm a colossal jerk.
Right.
Yeah.
Colossal.
Yeah.
Um
Thank you.
and like I think my friendships are more like aligned with my interests,
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas like uh yeah, like more loving, more supporting. And
Yeah.
also I think I get, just because we're older, like we get exposed to like big and amazing things that you wouldn't be like, hey, do you want to go to, Portugal in
Yeah.
August or whatever, right? Like when you're 9, that just doesn't happen unless you're like really rich.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Can only dream.
yeah. Okay, so I guess, do you have a harder time making friends as an adult?
Um,
Or you just like you have enough friends?
I really like I like it is I feel like such an asshole, but like I really don't. I mean, like, I think I've talked to you about this before. I am like the polar opposite with romantic relationships, whereas I'm a fucking complete disaster with them. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
in a way that even other people I know who are not good at them are significantly better than me. So like all my sort of, I guess, experience points have went into friendships rather than romances.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't meet people easily, but if I am doing an activity and it's over a long period of time, I am so quiet, and like so many people still know me as a very kind of quiet person and think about me as somebody who doesn't say very much. But like, if I'm doing an activity with people over long periods of time and I see them a lot, I gradually start talking more, and then like once people kind of get in under whatever my kind of fence of bullshit, it is like I tend to like hold them tight and have really kind of strong relationships with them, and
Mm-hmm.
I will make the effort to kind of like keep those things live and happening. So yeah, I don't. I think it takes time. I don't just. I'm not the sort of person who would like go to a bar and make a friend. But whenever I start a new hobby, I tend to inevitably end up making friends doing that, a hobby
Mm-hmm.
or a workplace or whatever. It's almost just kind of like a matter of time. I definitely feel very kind of lucky with that.
It was interesting when I was doing all of my extensive research on this topic,
Mm-hmm.
um, aka 5 minutes.
Sure.
Like like there again, like this is a whole. It's kind of like the wedding industry. Like the adult friendship industry is a real thing.
Yeah.
Books, podcasts, money goes into these
Yeah.
things. But like there are a lot of websites that have like, oh, come here and sign up and put your information in and we'll send you like the 20 best ways to make a friend as an adult. And I'm like, wow. But like a lot of the questions were like, try and find things that you have in common. Go to places that, it sounded like dating,
Yeah.
like go to
Yeah.
places where, you might run into people that have similar, hobbies as you and la la la. Like, so it's interesting that you make that distinction between like being able to make friends easily no matter what and wherever you are, as opposed to like romance.
Yes. But I think, you know, the same sort of like, because I mean, I think romantic stuff is kind of like what I talked about in terms of that immediacy. Like, you know, there's people I do have friends who will go to a bar or go to an event, just like be chatting to everyone and make friends, you know, even like casual friends really quickly. Whereas I'm not that person at all. Like I in the past, I've had a few friends who are really good, like a social catalyst. You know, they can start talking to people, but like they kind of burn out quite quickly, and then they lose interest and they kind of wander off. And like the person that they started talking to will end up talking to me for longer. But like I'm crap by myself. I have my moments, but like by and large, I'm not sort of great at kicking those things off.
I don't know, like everyone at yoga school wanted to be your friend.
Yeah, I know.
Even the cat.
That's true. Oh, that my greatest victory. I
Clearly, I have not forgotten.
Yes, but I think like I do think the yoga, because like
That was just a different experience.
it was, and because it was so much like let's bare your soul immediately, like day one.
Yeah.
Let's completely open your heart to everybody. So like
Yeah.
I couldn't hide really, you know, and I think that was probably good for me. I think I could probably do with taking that energy into the real world a bit more, you know. But yeah, it's, you know, it's interesting because I definitely have friends, or like not friends, but like I've had people from workplaces have had like reach out to me years later to be like, hey man, I always wished we hung out more. And like sometimes I'm like, awesome, let's do it, let's meet for a coffee, whatever, and I'm happy to see them. And then sometimes I'm like, oh no, dude, you suck. I didn't tell them that, obviously, but you know, I'm like, I understand why you're trying to befriend me, because I was nice to you, but you were kind of an asshole. Yeah.
You're like nice to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Is that a flaw or no? So why do you think it's important to you to have like good friends?
I like I like having a variety of people in my life. I you know, I think I've talked before about whenever we talked about skills and stuff, I really kind of love listening to people talk passionately about an interest that I know nothing about. And you know, by having friends from all sort of different walks of life and sexes and stuff like that and ages, it really kind of enriches my life, you know, and also like exposes me to things that I maybe wouldn't see otherwise. I just like, I don't know, how people react to things, how people talk. I just kind of like drinking that all in, you know. What about you?
I wrote the same thing down. Like basically, like I mean, obviously, I have a lot of good people that, you know, support me and rally for me, but also keep me in check, you know? So when I'm like veering off into the wrong direction, they're like, hey, wait, like, you know, and I have people that can do that for me. Not for me, but like help me through, you know, harder things, which is great. And I really try and like throw the support back the other way. Also like bringing new cool things into my life that I wouldn't know about.
Yeah.
Like I totally agree with you. That's one of the neatest things, you know, about having like a really diverse group of friends that are into a bunch of like flying on an airplane the other day, you know, like it opens worlds that I didn't know existed.
Exactly.
And wouldn't have known existed. And now it's like I'm obsessed. And I'm like, do I need to be a pilot? Do I need to get my pilot's license?
You know what? Why not?
Right?
I know. I totally get that as well. Like, and I think that, you know, so many of these worlds I've looked into, I'm like, is this it? Is Andy becoming a surfer now? And whatever.
Totally.
But we keep going back to our, you know, project that we've started that didn't go anywhere. You know, but I think that's good. And you know, I sometimes hear that sort of way of thinking poo-pooed a wee bit, but like honestly, I'd rather have like 20 ideas that go nowhere and one that work than have like no ideas or like hardly anything, you know. So yeah.
Like the podcast.
Exactly.
Like what we're doing right now.
It worked.
I know.
some of these things, some of these things go, and I think that's the two creatives like us, Beth. You know what I mean? So some of our ideas
Yes.
work when they work. They work gangbusters, and other times they just fizzle out, and that's fine. It's part of the creative process.
Like a deflating balloon
Exactly.
with fart sounds.
Exactly.
So I have kind of a weird
Yeah.
question. So you have friends, they're both your good friends, they're married,
Mm-hmm.
they get divorced.
Mm.
What do you do?
So I have had this with not a divorce but a long term relationship, so somewhat similar. Whenever I split up with my ex, there was a couple that I really liked that I was like, oh, you know what? I really want to see. These are the people I want to hang out with. I was like, I really need to reach out to them and like maybe bring up a board game, play a board game with them or whatever. But they were just like radio silent for a big chunk of time. And then it emerged about 3 or 4 months afterwards. I ran into the male of the couple, and he was like, "Yep, we split up," and they split up almost exactly the same sort of time as I was going through my breakup.
Oh, wow.
So I still close with him. She reached out to me months later, and we don't hang out as much as I would see the guy, but I do see her occasionally, and I hadn't seen her for months and months, and reached out to her just a few weeks ago. So like if I can play both sides of the fence, I do try to let them know that it's happening. But
Like a, hey, I'm hanging out with. That's very
yeah,
courteous of you.
but that's the only time it's really happened with me, and I can understand why some people would be like, how the fuck did you do this? If it was a really kind of acrimonious breakup. Theirs wasn't great, but it was it was pretty it wasn't super acrimonious.
When you broke up with your person, like, did people choose sides?
Yes, but I think everybody chose my side.
Okay.
I, in fairness, with her, most of them were my friends. I always think this. I don't know whether this is a warning sign or not. I always find it really unusual whenever I like meet people and they have like no real friends. Like she had a handful of people that she kind of knew, and she had like one best friend who was a guy who, and their relationship was going out and getting completely shit faced, and
Okay.
he had hit on her before. It was a whole yet another massive red flag that I should have seen a mile away. So that, so there wasn't really many. All the people that she knew were through me anyway. So really, that was the way it was going
An
to go.
easy.
Yeah.
It was easy choice. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's like situationally dependent,
Yeah.
but I think our culture doesn't really support playing both sides of the fence.
Yeah. It's pick
Um,
pick a side.
Pick a side. It's like people have divorce parties, and then it's like, then you go to one, and then you've picked a side kind of thing. And it's like with adult relationships and friendships, like breakups now, I think the older I get are harder.
Yeah.
So like it affects, like, even though obviously like they're adults making adult choices, it's still like, oh really?
Yeah.
Like I really like them, and it's like not a death by any means, but like you definitely like feel it a little bit more than like we did in our
Yeah.
20s or 30s or whatever.
Yeah. It definitely does suck, and I've definitely had friends that have broken up, and I just don't see the other half. Right, so just to pause a little second, I don't know if you hear this. There's essentially a dog trying to shoulder charge into this room right now. I keep hearing
hear
it. Boom, boom. Hey, I've definitely had friends, and
Like,
more often than not, it was the guy who I'd been closer with. But then when they got
yeah.
married, I became really close to both of them. I spent time with both of them. And whenever they broke up, I just never saw their ex again, and I was sad about it because they were people I really liked, but it's just how it goes sometimes, and I understand the need to take a clean break for a lot of people as well.
Agreed. Um, So what does like a quality friend look like to you? If you're like, oh, this is a good friendship
Do you,
because this person.
yeah, that's a good question. I guess, increasingly it has become people I can properly talk to. Do you know what I mean? The distinction between that. But like also people that make me laugh, people whose company I enjoy, people who like wants to do like fun things. Like I love a friend who'll be like, "Hey, here's this random thing. Do you want to try this?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, count me in." Like, don't even tell me another single thing. I'm there. I love all that sort of shit. So yeah, it's just I don't know. Caring people, that's the most important thing. People that I know give a shit.
Yeah, I would say like for me, I think I got a lot of flaws, right? And I think people that like get me and like forgive me for the flaws that I have,
Mm.
like I can be flaky, I know this. Um, I can be pretty not bullheaded, but like I always have an idea of like what I think is right and wrong
Yeah,
for the most part. And like that's I could get have a little more give to me, I think.
yeah,
But people that are just like, all right, this is who she is, and like me for who I am,
yeah,
and don't try and change me.
yes,
Um, and like someone I can laugh with.
yeah,
Like humor to me is a huge part of like any friendship, really. And people that have like interests that they include me in,
yeah,
and they're not like, oh, I got to do this thing you wouldn't understand or whatever. It's like I like to know about new things. Um,
yes. That sort of curiosity in your
yeah,
friend's life as well, I think, is really important.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and then like someone that's not jealous.
yes,
There's not like a like, oh well, like I'm gonna one up you kind of thing, because then I'm just like, all right, whatever.
yeah. I hear you.
I'm
Yeah, it's just
walking out of the room.
yeah, 100%. I
Because nobody can be as awesome as this.
yeah, yeah, I
I'm
know what
being
you
so
mean.
facetious, you guys.
I, and I think that like that is something. And I guess I've been lucky in that regard that I haven't had many friendships kind of like that. That sort of super competitive or like, I have had people describe friendships to me and I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound like a friendship. That sounds awful. That person sounds terrible.
Hmm.
But it's kind of all they know, and it's their person. Do you know what I mean? And I think that those things can get quite toxic sometimes.
Totally.
Um, but I don't know where I was going with that. So the other thing I was thinking, well, it was about sort of the nature of friendships and kind of what it drives people towards as things get older. I'm kind of dancing around the subject here, but something I've been talking about recently is the church and like how for some people and a few people recently I have had conversations with, and it's maybe not directly them, but it's family members or stuff, and it's like you join a church, oftentimes it comes with built-in friendships, it comes with built-in activities, it comes with built-in holidays, a whole built-in social life, and you know with it being harder to make friends generally as you get older, it can be quite appealing. That sort of here is a one size fits
Ready
all,
made,
ready made
right?
friendship
Yes.
social life kit.
Yes.
Um, well, and I think those things are interesting, and I think that it really kind of speaks really strongly to the desire, the kind of need more than the desire for friendship. That people will go along with things like that.
Yeah, religion's figured it out.
That has I
They
like
figured it out. They're like, so I don't know if I told you this. Maybe I did in some podcast, but I worked at a church for like a
yes,
year,
mm-hmm.
And watching the business of a church happening was interesting, but what it was also interesting was the level of like support for people when shit goes wrong
Yeah.
in their lives. It's like someone's husband passes away. It's like you've got 300 people there supporting you, bringing you food, helping you with childcare, helping you make funeral arrangements, like being your therapist. And that was amazing to me
Yeah.
because I didn't know. I mean, you assume, right, that, oh, people take care of people, but just like watching it actually happen in action was one of the like most beautiful things I'd ever seen.
I like
And
that.
I think, I was raised by largely atheist parents.
Yeah,
And
me
my mom
too.
was like, we're going to Unitarian church because she was trying to find that feeling of being in a community, and then like ended up getting in a fight with the other lady that was running like the youth program, and like we stopped going, and then I got my Sunday morning sleep-ins back.
Nice.
But right, but it's like there are places that try and create that in a non-denominational type of
Yes.
way.
But
I just don't think it works the
yeah,
same.
I think for like what hundreds, if not thousands of years, that was what you did. Like when people moved to new areas, they would like find the church because that's where they could find, in theory, like-minded people. And it's like
Yes.
so, and like and I don't want to dismiss it at all because I'm sure there's lots of value there and there's some like great friendship of genuine friendships to be built there. Do you know? I don't know. There's it's always seems it's like a little bit sinister to me that whole sort of like we will completely consume your life. It's just I don't know, but it's just interesting, and I just have heard about it both in terms of like people who are still in it in the midst of it or have went deeper into it, and also through the context of knowing somebody who kind of that was their life in their early years, and like they kind of drifted away from it in their 30s and found that like they didn't really have any close friends, and it
Yeah.
was just kind of like it was sad how that whenever you start drifting away, the sort of friendships are so a requirement of them is that you are all involved in the same religion, you all have the same beliefs, which I think kind of sucks, and kind of you lose some of the things that we're talking about. Do you know what I mean? Those things that allow you to access different parts of the world. You really kind of lose that if you're kind of all in this really homogenized group.
Well, and it's a large, I'm not saying you, but like it's a large part of Irish culture
Yeah,
too.
it is.
I think, you pick this one or you pick this one,
Yeah,
and that defines a lot of who you are and who you spend time with. Whereas here, there's so many different offshoots
it's
of
true.
so many different religions, and it's like I cannot understand what the differences are. Like there's so many. Um, but I think there's more freedom to sort of figure out. And granted, I'm talking from Southern California and not like in the deep South, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Bible reveals and all that kind of stuff. But you're I you're allowed more freedom to sort of figure it out on your own, and forgiveness for like figuring it out on your own.
Yeah, yeah. I think, which as it should be. As I think you're right. I think because it is the legacy of it here and in the UK as well, for that matter, is so entrenched. It's harder to
Yeah.
separate from that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, your monarchy is based on God.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's me
So
scarring my brain. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Or cool king. Yeah, king.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's one of those things that doesn't bear much thinking about. And you're like, wait a minute, what?
That was a good question.
Yeah, it was just a thought I had in relation to this subject because it had come up recently. But yeah, do you have any other questions?
I think just like how do you show up for your friends?
Um, That's a good question. I think that I always like to support friends. So, like, if a friend's doing something, whether that's playing in a band or like teaching a yoga class, I always like to go to those things and support them in their endeavors. And it also allows me to like see what they're like, and like having you experience myself as well. It's not completely altruistic, but like I think that's important to me. There's one of the things, and I've been thinking about this recently, again, just in context of something else. There is an idea in this country called mates rates. Do you know this?
Mates rates.
Yeah.
No.
So essentially, the idea that if your friend is running something and you're their friend, they can get you in at a reduced price, or they can get you in for free.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I fucking hate that concept, honestly, because I'm like, if my friend is doing something, I want to support them in totality. I don't want to be
paying
like
full
by paying full price. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So like, that always kind of cheesed me off, that sort of concept. So I suppose that speaks to how I show off for my friends. If they're doing something, I want to support them fully as best I can under the circumstances. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think same. It's harder now because I'm so far away from, a lot of the friends that I have had like for a long time, but now I have friends here and I'm building on that. And so like I'm really conscious right now about like how I'm showing up, and I've got a friend that's going through some tough stuff, and I'm texting her every couple weeks and just checking in and like seeing if I can watch her daughter and give her some time and that kind of thing. Or like I have another friend who's trying to figure out how to throw a foam party.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so tonight she just texted today and was like I'm gonna have it in the street. You guys want to come over? And
And where
as a
where
trial.
You guys live?
Yeah.
And wow, okay.
And I'm like, absolutely. I'm for that.
Hell yeah.
So, back to my rave days. But I think just like being there.
Yeah,
I mean, it
100%.
sounds like trite and silly, but that's the best way, I think, to be a good friend.
It's true. I suppose like one of the things, just as as we're starting to wrap things up, would be like the thought of, do you have any tips for people who are like trying to make friends, trying to like maintain friendships?
Yeah, I think something I've struggled with here is the fact that I guess I'm trying to find, there are so many people with so many different beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to find people that I can be friends with. Because I don't know if this is good advice or not, but I'm going to go there.
Go for it.
Even if people don't believe in the things that you believe, it's worth trying.
Yes.
To get to know people and understand people that might be slightly different from you.
It can be instructive in your life.
Totally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Totally. I think otherwise, it's like that thing where if you're so homogenized and like you're only hanging out with the people that believe the things that you believe, then your world becomes a much smaller place. The whole world becomes a less tolerant place. So A, like, know yourself well. B, know yourself well enough to be able to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation.
Mm-hmm.
And C, honestly, like, think about the things that you like about yourself. And I know. And then be confident in the fact that, like, you're awesome.
Yeah.
And people are lucky to be able to, like, spend time even chatting with you.
Yeah. I feel like that was said directly to me, and that's how I took it. So
you're a gift to the world.
If you're listening, that was just for me, not for any. That was lovely. I really like that. The thing that I was going to say, and I think it's something that serves me well, I think it's also something that serves you well, is to be curious. I think curiosity is such a kind of like both about people and about all the, other activities or whatever, because like so much in my life in terms of other people I know, and you say, do you like this thing, and they're like, oh no, or like, do you want to go and do this, and they're like, oh, I don't like dance music, and it's like, have you heard it all? How could you possibly like, why not try these things, and see what happens, but there's such kind of fear, I guess, but like all too often the worst that can happen is that you don't like it and you leave, and it's like, well, and so I think that like, that has been such a good lesson for me in all aspects of my life, and has really helped me with making friends and stuff, because I am really curious about people. I'm curious about all sorts, and whenever I've been looking, if there's something that you've always kind of wanted to get into, it's a perfect way to like start making new friends, like if you start, woodworking or board games or whatever, it's like you find somewhere that does these things, and you kind of like jump in, and like maybe you're shit at making tables, but maybe you meet somebody who is nice,
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah.
Okay, I have a weird question. What's a best memory of having an experience with friends, like as an adult, where you're just like, oh, that was amazing?
Oh, wow. Do you have one? Because I'm really going to have to think about this.
I would say like our yoga trips that we take.
Yeah.
How cool is it that we like pick a place, fly from all over the world, meet each other for like 5-6 days, have like our intensity of amazing friendshipness, and then go back to our corners of the world, like that's like one of my favorite friendship groups, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
And like, it's a group of people that says yes. And I think that's what you were just speaking about. It's just like, say yes. And like the things, you're like, let's go on a boat ride today. And we're like, dolphins.
Yeah.
Oh,
so good.
right.
Dolphins were rad.
I know. They were.
I'm still strong. Like, I mean, I'm so lucky to have so many kind of, memories like that. I really do. And like, I just kind of feel like blessed to be in that cocoon of like these kind of friendship groups sometimes, that I can just kind of go and be myself, and and some of them like didn't even start off like that and have just kind of morphed into that as times went on, which is why they were lasting friendships, I think. But yeah, I have so many, but like I definitely our yoga trips have been a real highlight of the recent years in my life, truly. Yeah, I think so.
So I'm right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right again.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Point for me. I have a tally going all the time.
Exactly. Other things that left in mind, but I'm just kind of like, like it was something I was listening to today, and they were asking this there's a musical artist on the radio, and they were being asked what their favorite album was, and they were just like, I don't know, how do you pick a favorite album? And like I really struggle with like that concept of like favorites. I have like blessed with so many kind of wonderful memories, and they're all precious to me. I'm also aware that like lots of people that I love listen to this podcast, and I don't want to upset anybody.
Be like, yes.
By being like, this experience, not this one that you're thinking of. They were all important to me.
How diplomatic of you.
All right. It is also true, but it is also
don't lose those adult friendships you have, Andy.
No. It's alright, I've got them to hook. They love me, alright?
Yeah, that's true.
They're not going anywhere.
I would also say this has been like not a surprising awesome adult friendship, but just like the gift that keeps on giving.
100%.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Cheese and kimchi toasties.
Oh, you know it. I suggested that somebody else like sent me an image. They're like, oh, I got some kimchi the other day, what should I do with it? I'm like, I'm telling you right now what you should do with this. And they message me a week later and like, what have you done to me? And I'm like, ha ha ha. So yeah, truly is the gift that keeps giving.
Yep.
But yeah, so folks, again, if you've got any thoughts on adult friendships, or you would like to join this sort of conversation, please send us any kind of thoughts that you have. But yeah, so I think we'll move on to our favourite part of the podcast. What's been bringing you joy this week?
Okay, I have one.
I've got, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go first?
No, I don't. No, go ahead, sorry.
You're like, no.
Yeah, Beth. Shut up, Beth.
So I finished Dave Grohl's Storyteller. Great book. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to read paper books right now because I want to use my new readers. Not really. But so I'm reading Mel Brooks's book, It's All About Me.
Good name.
I know, right? It's very Mel. And I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, okay,
it's
nice.
Like, he writes the way, I don't know, like, he writes the way you would want him to write.
Yeah.
He's telling the stories that you would want him to tell. He's as charming as a child, He's like 98 years old.
Yeah.
And, like, just wrote this book, I think, in, like, 2001, 2002. Wow. Like, he was married to Anne Bancroft.
Yeah.
Who played Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate. And they were married for like 40 years. I had no idea. I did know Max Brooks was his son who did, what was it? Zombie.
Was it World War Z he did? Or
World War Z.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and I think he's, and the movie was meh.
Yeah.
But yeah, the book was good.
It was.
He's just a fascinating human being.
He's always seemed just a lovely man.
Totally. It's always amazing to me how many people have come from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Barbara Streisand. Like everyone who's creative, like Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Rosie Perez.
Nice. It's a creative hotbed.
It kind of is.
Over there.
It kind of is. Yeah, so that's bringing me joy. What about you?
So I have a few things. So the first one was, there are two different things. So a video game and a movie. So I'll save the movie till afterwards because the video games. So like I went back to a video game that I haven't played in a long time because I don't know why I felt the call to go back to it. It's called Celeste. And I was playing it. And I was like, and it's basically, you are this girl who has went to this mountain in Canada and has decided to climb it. And I was like, went through a few levels and I was like, is this a metaphor for depression? And then it is no longer subtext. It is text where like basically she sees this like a mirror image version of herself who she thinks is evil and she tries to reject and she tries to push away. And then like she eventually embraces her and stuff, and it's very beautiful. Like it's the in what is essentially like a kind of Twitch sort of platformer. It's the emotional core is actually really strong. It has made me cry. I know, like shooting fish in a barrel, but still, and, not hard. But I was surprised at that. It's rare that a video game makes me cry, and it's really, just very powerful. So, what?
I said, really, Andy?
Yeah, no. Well, but it's mostly Beth. It's mostly crying because, like, why can't I beat you? That sort of crying,
Right, okay.
It's so hard. That sort of thing. So the other thing was, I think I talked about this last week, but I did go and see it. So I went to see Hundreds of Beavers last Tuesday.
Oh, yes.
Holy shit. It was so goddamn good. So... I will send you a trailer for it afterwards, but it's essentially a guy put together a movie. He wanted to do like a live action like Looney Tunes cartoon, and the guy, it's basically about this Canadian fur trapper who gets into a war with these beavers, and the beavers are basically guys in mascot costumes. And it is just, the jokes come so thick and fast, and like I think that it's, but whenever there's that many jokes, not all of them are going to hit, but when they do hit, they're incredible. And I really loved it. It was just such manic energy, like throughout. Like it both has like these really sort of crafted, like you know, bit of animation, bit of live action stuff, but then there's like proper like Jackass style stunts where there'll be like two beavers carrying like a log, and he like come in off screen and like tackle one of them, start punching it in the ground, and then like start hitting them with like it's just ludicrous, like, but it was just what I needed. It made me laugh so much, and it was like truly unlike anything else I've ever seen. So
Was
yeah.
that a dog? Was that a
That
dog?
was a dog. Yeah.
He's like, it's been an hour.
Yeah. Come on. What are you
Literally.
doing? Hey.
1 minute and 9 seconds.
I'm ready for my butter.
Or 1 hour and 9 seconds.
I'm ready for my buttered toast now. So check out Hundreds of Beavers, everyone. It is It is unlike anything else you will have ever seen. I think that it's one of these things that people will either love or hate, but I think there's enough interesting stuff in there that everyone will find something to enjoy in it.
I just looked at like the trailer for 10 seconds and it looks like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
good.
great. So,
good find. Good find.
Yeah, it's happy with that one. Yeah, I thought it's definitely dogs barking, you know. The joys of dog
How many more days?
I have 2 currently. I have one who'll be going back tomorrow morning, and the other is here until Sunday. So another 6 days. Yeah.
Okay. That's nothing.
Woo! Yeah.
You got this.
My sleeping pattern says otherwise.
I'm here to support you.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Beth, could you tell everyone where they can find us and things like that?
Yes, we are on TikTok. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. I think those are the big ones.
Yeah.
YouTube.
Spotify.
We have a website.
Yes, we do.
Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, like literally every
Every
Audible.
App. Yeah, Apple.
Every app that I can possibly get us on. So please feel free to listen to episodes.
And review.
You can also watch full episodes of our recording this and talking to each other and drinking insane amounts of water and having to pee. So find us at bendypodcast.com.
Awesome.
Join the conversation.
Yes, please. All right, folks. In that case, as always, we'd like to remind you to stay Bendy. It was either our best or our worst ever.
Yeah, this is top 5 of either one of those.
You're welcome. Bye. We love you.
Bye. We love you. Bye.